it's fairly uncontroversial to say that that visit was a failure from the standpoint of what Canadian government officials wanted that visit to look like, and from this also from the standpoint of what Ukrainians or the Ukrainian government and president wanted that visit to highlight, right? Highlight an unwavering support from an allied country, but instead of that, it highlighted some very dark histories and parts of histories of Ukraine, and it's it's not surprising to see that the Russian president Vladimir Putin jumped on that to ridicule both the former Speaker of the House Anthony Rota, and talk about how there are Nazis in Ukraine, and that is why they're fighting in Ukraine. But it's just a total blunder. I'm just something that I'm a bit optimistic about is how it at some point it became politicized. Some people on the right wanted Justin Trudeau to take the fall for that, but it became completely clear that the government is not in charge of the parliamentary protocol, and does not have access to and should not have access to who the speaker decides to invite to the House. It's a complete failure from the part of the speaker and the office of the speaker, but that has to be it's important for the sake of Canadian institutions to blame the right institutions, and not do what some have asked, that the PMO, the Prime Minister's office, start to review the speaker's guests. That's just that is not good for Canadian democracy. That is not good for the health of Canadian institutions.
Yeah, definitely not. And I think, like everybody's initial reaction, and is my reaction when I first saw it, is just how in the world can this happen? How do you, even when you hear the Speaker of the House introduce him, saying he fought against the Russian, you hear a phrase like that, you're and he said he fought against the Russian in World War II. You start, I'm fought against the Russian in World War II. What was that? What does that mean? The Russians were fighting, the Nazis, right? So now you start questioning it. So I think everybody's reaction, which was valid, was yo, how can you guys have a Nazi in the House of Commons and nobody, caught that? And I think at the end of the day, and the reason why you saw Justin Trudeau even struggle to even find really something to say, because if you saw him in the question period, he didn't even say too much that really gave us an answer of what had happened. I think ultimately it's because we just do not have a robust system in terms of verifying these visitors. I think it's fundamentally just an oversight in the House of Commons. If you just look at the system, there is this security check that happens, but that's just, again, more for security purposes rather than the individuals being verified, and just the robustness of that search verification. I've even saw in an article people think maybe even the people in the office of the speaker didn't maybe want to Google search and called it a day. There isn't, we think there's this elaborate process in terms of verifying some of these individuals, and I think this was a moment where we realized there isn't. And because of a moment like this, now there is going to be, because I'm telling you, this will never be allowed to happen again. But I think it's a situation where, again, we didn't have the system in place for that. What actually had happened is that Hanka's son reached out to Anthony Rota's office, and because the Yaroslav Hanka lives in North Bay, and Anthony Rota's constituency office, well, his riding is in it's Nipissing, so it's that's the same constituency as where the Nazi live, right? So the son reached out to the constituency office of the speaker that's really where things started, and that's where his father got the invitation to come, and then he was put in the viewing gallery, and then that's where everything kind of unraveled. Obviously, he was introduced and got 2 standing ovations, and yeah, just based on that timeline, you kind of see like, okay, the office of the speaker didn't reach out to him. Red flag number one, and obviously you can reach out to that's the whole point. You want to reach out to the MPs, because at the end of the day, the speaker is an MP, so he has a constituency. But that's red flag number one, which is like, okay, they reach out to you, he tells you this about his father, whatever it is. There should be some deeper checks that are happening here, but it just didn't happen, and it was a mistake. It was an oversight. That's why when you hear Justin Trudeau speaking out there and he's talking a lot, but he's not really saying much, it's because there's not much to say other than saying, yo, we messed up. That's really it. And Anthony Rota, when he resigned, he also said, you know what, I'm deeply sorry. I messed up, and he obviously offended, a lot of people, including, the Jewish community all over the world, but yeah, here in Canada as well. And I think it's definitely it's a complete embarrassment, because I think for me, when I just look at the standing ovation, I think that to me is something that's like, that sticks in the mind of people. Like, that visual is something that gets replayed over and over and again. And as you said, the Kremlin did not take long to jump in a situation, because when they started the war in Ukraine, one of the first things they were saying, is like, we're on a mission for denazification, like that was always the thing that they talked about. And now we have a situation like this, and it kind of plays back into their hands. So obviously it was proper and appropriate that Anthony Rota resigns, even though he probably didn't even see, that the hunker was going to be the one in there till maybe last minute, or even maybe till he saw him in the gallery. But again, I think these are mistakes that are happening under your watch. And as you said, the speaker of the House he's an MP, elected MP, but once he becomes a speaker, you are supposed to be impartial, because you don't participate in debates, you don't participate in caucus meetings anymore. You're basically the one that's just makes sure parliamentary practices are followed. You only vote if there's a tie. So obviously people were like, Justin Trudeau, you're the boss, the Liberal Party, you should be the one handling this. But the whole point of the Speaker of the House is he's an impartial body. It doesn't work if you have a partisan person being Speaker of the House, because obviously, if you guys have watched Question Period, the debates are crazy, and if you have somebody that's biased and that wants to give more time to one person than the other and wants to shut down one party, it will not work. The whole way